This video will show you how to use your graphing calculator to find factors when you're factoring and also to help you simplify i's. It depends which graphing calculator that you have. For this video, I'm using TI-84 Plus CE, but some of the features do work in the TI-83 as well. So let's get started. If I'm trying to factor, and I'm using the A times C, the AC method or box method, what I want to look for is my A times C. And again, as a reminder, this is standard form when it is AX squared plus BX plus C. So before you factor, you have to make sure it's in standard form. And you also want to make sure that you cannot factor out a greatest common factor. Those are the first two things you need to look for before you even start factoring. So what's in the place of A and what's in the place of C, I'm going to try to multiply those out and find factors. So going to my calculator, if I don't know that readily, just type in 7 times 6, and that's going to be 42. So for your 42, you're going to take that information. I'm just going to write it to the side for now. You're looking for two factors that will multiply to give you that 42, but when I add them, they're going to give me a positive 23. Some people have problems trying to figure that out real quick, so that's what we're going to use the calculator for. What you want to do is take that 42 and enter it. I've already done it for you under y equals 42 divided by x. And then you go to the next row and you're doing the same thing, 42 divided by x. The difference is now you're adding x. I'll show you how to input this in the next example. So now what you want to do is go to your table, second graph, and you're looking for the part on my calculator that's red, which is the third column labeled y sub 2. In that column, what you're looking for is your middle term, which we know is 23. So we're going to go down and just look at the way the pattern, are the numbers going up or are they going down, so that you'll know which direction to go. So I see 23 here. In front of 23, I have two numbers. Those are my two factors that will not only multiply to equal 42, but if I add them, they equal 23. So that's what I'm looking for, 21 and 2. You also pay attention to the sign. The calculator will tell you the signs. So if it was a negative, it would have had it in front of it, but it doesn't. It just has 21 and 2. So I take that information if I choose to use the box method. And for my first box, I always use my first term. So that's going to be 7x squared. For my last box, I always use my last term, which is plus 6. And we just found the other two boxes. It does not matter which box goes where. So I'm going to try plus 21x. So what's happening is this 23x is being replaced by those two factors that you just came up with. So therefore, it's important that you remember to include the variable with it. So now I have 4 terms and I have 4 boxes in which to put those 4 terms. Now what I'm doing is, let me make some room right here, pull this down, if it lets me. Okay, and what I'm trying to do now is factor out on the first row and then the second row. On the second row, I'm gonna go ahead and pull my sign out, which is the sign that's near where I'm writing. And then I'm gonna do the same going up. And I'm gonna do the same thing with the sign. Just go ahead and pull it out so I don't forget that it's the sign that's closest to where I'm writing. If I'm trying to factor out the greatest common factor, 7, the biggest number that can be divided by 7 is itself. So then I would just check to see if this number can also be divided by 7. If so, that is my greatest common factor as far as numbers. And in terms of my variables, one has x squared, which simply means x times x, and the other one has an x, which means x. How many do they have in common? They only have 1 in common, so that's how many can come out. If I'm looking at my next row, what is the biggest number I can divide both by? Well, 2, the biggest number I can divide 2 by is 2. Can I divide 6 by that same 2? Yes, I can. So that's what comes out, and the sign that's closest to it comes out as well. Going up, 7x times what will give me 7x squared. That's the easiest way to do it if you don't know how to factor out the greatest common factor. And if you don't like dealing with the X part, then you can go to the next row. 2 times what will give me 6. And again, you're multiplying. So 2 times 3. That's your other factor. So those are my factors. And I just have to put it in factor form, which is going to be 7x plus 2 times the quantity of x plus 3. That is my final answer. So 2 things I want to just keep reiterating to you. When you are trying to find your factors, which are shown on the outside, follow the directions. So what I'm going to do on the top, I'm going to go from left to right. I do not write it backwards. And on the side, I go from top to bottom. That's how you write it, okay? Now, if I wanted to double check it, 7x times x is going to get me right back where I started, 7x squared, and then 2 times 3 will give me that positive 6. I already know the middle term is correct because the calculator already told me that the 21 plus 2 is going to equal that 23x. Going to my next example. These are some huge numbers. So that's a telltale sign to me that if I cannot take the square root of both, then chances are I have a greatest common factor. So I have to look at them. The smallest number I see is 15. Well, 15 can be divided by itself, but 21 can't be divided by 15. At that point, I'm only looking at factors of 15 because those are my only possible options. And I'm going from the largest number down. Well, we just said 15 doesn't work. So let's try 5. Can I divide 54 by 5? No, I cannot. So I know that's not an option. Let's go to the next one. 3. Can I divide 54 by 3? I don't know. Let's go to our calculator if you're not sure. How do I get out of the screen? I'm trying to quit. So I would have to hit second and then mode. You see what happened when I just hit mode without hitting the second part? It just goes into that menu. So what I was looking for is 54 divisible by 3. Yes, it is. 18. So then I look at my other terms. Is 15 divisible? Well, we know 15 is 21 divisible by 3? It is. So therefore, I know that's my greatest common factor. So let's go and write 3 under each one of my terms. When I am factoring, my greatest common factor goes out front. So 3 parentheses. Keep up with that. Greatest common factor is a factor. So what's left over is 21 divided by 3, which is 7. And then I have a squared. 15 divided by 3 is plus 5. And I have I'm sorry, I don't know why I have that a squared there. I have a left over. And then negative 54 divided by 3, we just said that's going to be 18. These are still big numbers. However, I have my calculator. So I'm going to just go ahead and start my answer because I already know, I see that I have a square. So chances are I'm going to have 2 sets of parentheses next to my greatest common factor. So what I want to do is look for my new A and my new C. And that's what I'm multiplying. Or I can go ahead and start my box over here. I'm going to have 4 boxes. My first term, like I said, is now 7a squared. It is not that 21a squared. 7a squared. And my last term is now negative 18. And I'm multiplying those 2 together. Let's go back to our calculator. So that's going to be 7 times negative 18, which is negative 126. That is what's going to go under my y equals button. So I'm going to go to y equals. And if you put the minus sign, which is the one in gray, you're going to get an error. You want to use the negative sign, which is the one below 3. So negative 126 divided by, and the x is under the mode button. That's the one you're using. So let's clear that out so we don't confuse anyone. The exact same thing that you just type, you type again, negative 126 divided by x. But this time you have to add another x. That gives you a third column when you go to your table. So go to second table, and you're looking in the third column, the y sub 2 one. What am I looking for? I'm looking for my middle number, which is now 5. That's what I'm looking for. If I am paying attention to the way it's counting and I'm going this way, I notice I'm going on the negative side. You will see that there is a -5 shown here, but that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for a +5. That is important because you'll have the factors shown, but the signs are wrong. So go to your +5, and the two numbers in front are showing the exact factors with the signs that you need. So you need a +14 and a +9. I'm sorry, +14 and a -9. That's what's gonna, so your -126 was a +14 and a -9. That is what's replacing this +5. So +14a and -9a, because 14 minus 9 is 5. All right, that's what we're going to put inside of our box if you're using the box method. +14, but you have to put the variable with it, -9a. Going to the left, I'm going to take out the sign that's closest to me so I don't forget it. And going up, I'm going to take out the sign that's closest to me. And then I'm going to go back and look for my greatest common factor. The biggest number I can divide both by is 7. The biggest variable is a. If I go to my next row, the biggest number I can divide both by is -9. So that's what I'm pulling out. And going up, 7a times what will give me 7a squared? Well, the 7 is already accounted for. I just need another a. Let's go to the numbers. -9 times what will give me -18? The negative's already accounted for, so 2. We have our two factors, top to bottom, left to right. That's how you write it inside of parentheses. Does it matter which comes first? No, it does not. You could write your a plus 2 first if you wanted to. And this is what I'm writing over here. This is my answer in factored form. Most people forget to bring down the GCF. That is part of your answer, because if you multiplied if you did not, we'll just say with it. If you multiplied this out, 3 times 7a is 21a times another a is 21a squared. That's what we started with. So if you don't see that happening, if you just see 7a times a, that is not 21a squared. So that should tell you you're missing something. Okay, we're going to factor one more. The easiest way to factor this type problem is to notice that it's a difference of 2 squares. But some people don't want to learn different strategies. They just want to stick with the box method. So if I am sticking with the box method, then what I want to do is create my box. I'm still going to have 4 boxes. And then I have my A and I have a C. I'm missing, now my C also has that. I'm missing a B, which is, that just means it's 0. So what I'm going to do is put 49x squared and -4. In my calculator, I'm going to multiply, go back to second quit so that you can get back to this screen, 49 times -4. That gives me -196. So if I go to y equals, I can just replace that 2 in this case with a 9 and go down, replace that 2 with the 9. You don't have to do that. If you want it cleared each time, that's fine. And now if I go to second graph, look at my third column, remember, I don't have a middle number. So that means that's 0. If I am doing this correctly, because this is a difference of 2 squares, it should be the exact same number, just with different signs. So here I have 14 times 14, -14. So my initial number was, if I multiply A times C, -196, and 14 times -14 is what's going to be in my second and my third box. So I have +14x, -14x, and I am factoring out to the left. Again, I already know that if I were to take the square root of both terms, this would have resulted in 7x. This would have resulted in ±2. And I would just have to put that information inside of parentheses. One has a +2, the other one has a -2. That's my final answer. But if you are factoring out, again, you want to keep up with your signs. The biggest number I can take out is 7x, and then the biggest number on the bottom I can take out is a -2. 7x times what is 49x squared? Well, I know that's just going to be another 7x. And then -2 times what will give me a -4. I know that that is going to be a +2. So I still have my factors on the side. I just have to put them in parentheses next to each other. So just another thing I keep saying, this is not the same as that. This means 7x plus 2 times another 7x plus 2. We don't have that. We have a -2, okay? So pay attention to that. The same thing, if you were to change this to a negative, that's not what that means. So therefore, I'm missing my positive. So make sure you understand that when you're doing a difference of two squares, the signs will be different. All right, let's go to the fun part. I know how much you want to know how to simplify i's using your calculator. So first, know that if your calculator does not give you the exact answers that you're about to see with this calculator, you can always just take your number, and since it's patterns of 4, you can divide by 4. And if this is your decimal portion, it correlates to this. 0, 0 means basically it's a whole number. There's no remainder. So that's going to be your answer 1. And that also is I to the 0 power, or I to the 4th means the same thing, 1. These are my only answer choices if I am simplifying an I. That's it, nothing else. Okay, so let's get started with the first one. We have I. Well, before we get started, let's close this. And we're going to go to mode. If you go to mode and you go all the way down, you'll see real. And next to it, you see A plus BI. Go ahead and select that and hit enter. And to get out of the screen again, second and mode again, that tells you to quit. And now if I'm trying to find my I go to second and then the decimal, that's going to give me I, but I want the exponent. So I'm going to use the little caret symbol below clear and type in 57. This calculator tells you the answer, which is I. Some calculators will have like a big E, and you'll see this on part D, you'll see what I'm talking about. All right, so this answer is simply I. If you were using a calculator, let's go back, and you wanted to type in 57 divided by 4, because that's how you would do it, your decimal portion is 0.25. If you look at the chart, that means I. So going to the next one, if I used my I button, second decimal, raise it to the power of 78, and it tells me it's -1. I could also do 78 divided by 4, and it tells me 0.5. It's still -1. If I go to second and then my decimal, raise it to the power of 95, this calculator tells me it's -I. If I took the exponent 95, divided it by 4, because it's patterns of 4, I see my decimal portion is 0.73, which is still -I. So you have options. There's more than one way to do this. And then finally, if I go to my calculator and type in second decimal, and I raise it to the power of 136, this is what most calculators do. It'll give you all of this with an E. So everything that's attached to that E, that is really considered 0. So you're just looking at what is in front of that sign, which is 1. So if I did 136 divided by 4, I have no remainder, and no remainder means 1. So this can be confusing when students see that E. So everything attached to that E on that side of the sign is 0. So we know this is going to just be 1. When it looks like that, I prefer to just divide the exponent by 4. That way you can clearly see the decimal. All right, so what about if you have something that looks like this? Now, the only time that the highlighted part is going to be it's not going to be your final answer necessarily. It's going to be the part that replaces the i's that you're trying to simplify. All right, so let's put this in the calculator just as we see it. So I'm going to clear all that. I have 2i, and again, a second. I did something wrong. 2 second, and then a decimal. Clearly, I'm missing the second. 2 second decimal. There we go. And then I want to raise that to the power of 18. At this point, it's still an exponent, so you want to move it over by hitting the right arrow, plus 3, and then it was I to the 21st. Look at it, make sure that it's typed in correctly, hit enter. There's your answer. -2 plus 3i. So this is -2 plus 3i. So really what was happening is 2, and then you whatever that was, plus 3 times whatever this was. And this is, we can go back, I to the 18, second, raise it to the 18th power. And the first one is -1. And then the second one is I raised to the 21st power, which is I. And if you simplify this out, you end up with the same answer, -2 plus 3i, and it's in the correct form, a plus bi. All right, let's do this next one. This one is 3i raised to the 67th power minus 4. Oops, see, you have to be careful of that. So to avoid that, hit the right arrow. There we go, -4, and then you want to go to your I, and it was raised to the 32nd power. Okay, this is my last video for today. Raised to the 32nd power, and this is the final answer, -4 minus 3i. And this again, doing the same thing, you would have your 3 times parentheses minus 4 times parentheses. Okay, let's go on to, I have 4 more, performing operations. Sum just means to add. Put it in the calculator just how you see it with the parentheses and add. So I am going to clear that out because it's getting messy. And I'm going to put in parentheses -9 plus 7i. Parentheses, and it says sum, so I'm adding. And my next set of parentheses is 2 minus 4i. Again, make sure you entered it correctly with your parentheses, hit equal, and that is your answer, -7 plus 3i. Let's see if that makes sense. Sum just means I'm going to align them. I like to put them together with like terms. So that's going to be 2 minus 9, which is -7. And then -4 plus 7, or you can read it backwards, 7 minus 4 is +3i. That's what it said, right? Yep. All right, the next one, you just need to know what order to put it in the calculator. It says to subtract this parentheses from the other one. So that means this goes first. After from, that goes first, okay? So that is going to be parentheses -6 plus 2i, another parentheses, I'm subtracting this time, and it'll do the distributive portion for me, 5 minus 8i, so I don't have to change it if I'm putting it in the calculator, it'll do it for me. And that is going to be -11 plus 10i. Again, let's see if that's correct. I'm going to be changing the signs manually because that's what that means over there, -11 plus 10i. Product is going to be parentheses, that means multiply, 2 minus 4i times 3 plus i. So I don't even have to put the multiplication. It understands that it's next to it. So that just means parentheses next to another parentheses means to multiply. So 10 minus 10i. You can FOIL that out if you need to see what's going on. And it's going to be 6 plus 2i, and then you have to do the other part as well, which is negative 12i. Now, negative 4i times I is really going to be negative 4i squared. But we know I squared is negative 1. So negative 4 times negative 1 is positive 4. Add like terms, 6 plus 4 is your 10, and then 2i minus 12i is your negative 10i. All right, and then finally, dividing 4.3i, not 4 plus 3i by 6 minus I. So using my parentheses, 4 plus 3i divided by 6 minus I. All right, so it does the math for you, and it looks like this. You're like, oh my gosh, do not give me decimals. So in order to change that to a fraction, press your math button. It's already highlighted as fraction, so just hit enter, enter, and that is your answer, 21 over 37 plus 22 over 37i. So that's what we're going to write here, 21 over 37 plus 22 over 37i. That's your final answer. Now, of course, you're going to have to show something. So what you could do is just show me 4 plus 3i divided by 6 minus I, and then just show me the conjugate, which is going to be the part in front of the imaginary part. The sign in front of the imaginary part is the only thing that changes. So instead of having a negative I, you have a positive I. So if you just show me that, I understand that you used a calculator to get that information. Okay. Hopefully that helped a lot of you understand how to use your calculator. Have a great day.